Jamie King, faculty with Neumont University, sitting here with Tim Clark. Tim, you are chair of which degree?
I am chair of the Web Design Development degree.
And what would students be doing in that degree?
We focus on web design, development, HTML front-end design, front-end development, interactive applications in the web browser, all that kind of stuff.
So web programming involves a lot of skills.
Correct.
So I need to know how to program in the browser. That's what technologies do I use in the browser?
So for the browser, we're using primarily JavaScript. So JavaScript would be the in-browser scripting language that we use for programming. So you got to learn a lot of JavaScript. You got to be really good at JavaScript. And then the JavaScript is used to manipulate the HTML and CSS.
And those are all client-side technologies.
Correct. They all run in the browser.
But I can't get anything in my browser unless I request it from a server.
Correct.
So the web students get a lot of server experience.
Correct. The students go through the .NET web frameworks. They go through the Java web frameworks, and then they learn some of the open source web frameworks. A little bit of PHP, some Ruby on Rails every now and again.
And those are all server side.
They're all server-side web programming.
And your degree is how long?
It is 2.5 years. A lot of what we do is we focus on the user interaction, the user experience, how the users use web applications. And a lot of focus is put on design with a focus on the users. And that is because no matter how amazing a backend is, no matter how amazing the code is in the back, the database, no matter how much work you've put into it, if the user doesn't like to use your application, it's a complete waste of time. So unlike other degrees, we spend a lot of the time talking about the user. How would the user use this? How can we approach development from the user's point of view? That way, applications that we build are for the user. Users will like to use them, they'll enjoy using them. So I'd say that's the biggest difference between the web degree and other degrees, is a focus on the user. The user's experience.
Now when I hear the term design, I think very visual, very artsy, but yet this has a lot of coding and computer science in it. Talk about the balance between how much artistic design I get versus how much coding I'm going to get in this degree.
Gotcha. Well, when it comes down to the degree, it is web design and development. The big thing here is that we do give you about 30% design, which means we're going through Photoshop and Illustrator and learning how to create a user interface, the actual look and feel. So we're talking about designing it with the art skill of the student. And then the rest of it is going to be programming, 100% programming. So back end, front end, talking about the programming that makes the application what it is.
So tell me about the graduates, because when I hear that, hey, you're going to get 30% of design, artistic skill, and mix that with code, that's pretty powerful. Like I had a company approach me one time, said, we'll give you a $10,000 finding fee if you can find somebody for us who can not only code, but also has the artistic design skill. Is that the niche that you're filling here with these graduates?
Yeah. So what we found is that a lot of companies out there, they can find developers, they can find people who can program, but they have a really hard time finding people who can design and program. Because for companies I've worked for, we have a lot of developers, and then we've brought in graphics designers. The graphics designers will come in, will design the user interface, they'll design the look and feel, but their designs usually don't meld very well with the back end or with the technology that they're trying to put under the hood. And that's because the designers, the standard designers that you get from a graphics design degree, they don't understand how the user interface actually wires up, connects, hooks, and is used by a user to manipulate that back end or to control that back end. So a lot of businesses, like you were just saying, they're looking for developers who can focus on the user experience but also know the back end, but also have that design experience so that they can then hook all that together and actually make it an enjoyable experience to actually use the system. So yeah, it's a niche market that we're filling, and it's actually huge. There's a lot of companies. So the better you are at design plus programming plus the user experience, the more valuable asset you are to a company.
That was about 4 years ago when they offered that to me, and because the finder's fee was so high, I looked and I looked. I could find lots of coders, find lots of people with designs, couldn't find somebody who understood the whole thing.
Yeah, and I found throughout my career that because, I mean, initially I was going to be an architect, so I went to university in their architectural degree, so I was going to design buildings and all that stuff, so I had a lot of artistic skill that I had developed over the years, and that I was actually trying to go into an industry where I could do a lot of design. And then I ended up at Neumont, got a Bachelor's of Computer Science, but because of the amount of design skill that I had, focusing on users and designing for people, every single company that I've ever worked for, I've been an extremely valuable asset because I can do both sides of that and merge it all together.
So why are you teaching at Neumont?
I am teaching at Neumont because I've had these jobs in the I was in Southeast Asia. I was helping a school. The school's goal was to try to improve people's lives in Southeast Asia, to improve academics, education, to just pretty much raise that sector of the world by providing higher education to those people. I worked in the medical industry, which was all about helping doctors provide better care for people. It just seems like I end up in industries where we're helping people. And so when I got back and they asked me if I wanted to teach, I honestly couldn't think of a better way to help people than to teach. So by coming to Neumont, I mean, how else can you change 400 plus people's lives each year permanently, right? To change where their future's going. I mean, some of these guys are first-time college students, so it doesn't just change their lives, it changes their parents, it changes everything.
Well, your future family or wherever they go.
Exactly. And once we're done with them and they graduate and they're making more money than they could through any other university, and they're excited about life and starting off, and we've helped them grow up from just being high school students to now adults. You can't really get that experience anywhere else.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah.
Tim, you are a Neumont graduate yourself.
I am.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated in 06, so I was cohort 4.
One of the first students at Neumont. And you tell me about your industry experience. You left and now you came back to teaching.
So when I was here at Neumont, I was the senior web developer for Neumont. So they hired me on while I was a student, and then I stayed on afterwards. After I graduated, I stayed on as a senior web developer. After Neumont, I was a Ruby on Rails developer for a company. We did lead aggregation services for universities. So we actually tried to find students for universities using complex algorithms and landing pages all over the place. So we did that in Ruby on Rails. After that, I worked in the health industry, so the medical industry. Worked for a company. We managed giant medical document databases that were created by practitioners, nurse practitioners, doctors, all that kind of stuff. And then we built web applications that were on top of that medical repository for hospitals and private practice physicians and stuff like that. We created also pharmacy applications that allow people to do automatic refills of their things. So I did that for a while. I moved up to software architect while I was at that particular company. And then one of the founders of Neumont called me up and said that they had a job for me in Southeast Asia as the chief software architect for a university. So I grabbed my wife and my 3 kids, and we sold our house and our cars, and we packed everything we owned into 10 suitcases, and we jumped on a plane to Malaysia in the middle of Southeast Asia. And so we moved to Southeast Asia. I was the chief software architect for an 8-campus university that spanned Malaysia, Indonesia, and a satellite campus in China. So we were rebuilding all their enterprise systems, replacing their LMS, their financial, all that kind of stuff, trying to use open source software to reduce costs, because we're in the middle of Southeast Asia. Everything costs 4 times as much compared to the United States when it comes to technology. The CIO left in the middle of it, so then suddenly I was both CIO and software architect for the company. We got everything wrapped up and straightened up sooner. It was a 2-year plus contract. We got everything wrapped up in a year, so then came back to the United States, and that's where Aaron Reed and Sam found out I was back and said, maybe you want to try teaching. I said, sure, I'll give it a shot.
And here you are.
2.5 years later. So,
You've been here 2.5 years?
almost.
Wow, oh wow, that went fast.
Didn't it? Though?
Yeah, I remember when I saw you bowling, I was like, oh, Tim, what are you doing? Yeah.
2.5 years is just about.
Okay, well, we appreciate your time. Glad you're here. Glad you're running the web development degree, and
Yeah.
see you later.
Yep.